Hi, my name is Alfred Brock, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about Gleaners. I want to thank you very much for taking a look at this and allowing me to talk on behalf of the Gleaners Community Food Bank of Southeastern Michigan, and really also on behalf of any food bank or any food distribution point wherever you may be in the United States of America or the world. I've long been concerned about hunger in the United States. While I was growing up, many of my friends were often in need of a little more food, and some of my neighbors were in need of a lot more food. So they were hungry. Now, I became interested in Gleaners because I volunteered at several locations in southeast Michigan dedicated to providing food to people who were in challenging positions and so were food insecure. By food insecure, I mean that they lack the means to provide themselves with what we would all consider to be a normal day's worth of dietary nutrition. Enough food, that is. These people were and are hungry. I worked with the bed and bread truck with the Salvation Army, which is also a volunteer opportunity you may consider here in Southeast Michigan, and they have bed and bread trucks all across the United States. So you may find one in your city. I worked with the bed and bread truck, some soup kitchens, warehouses, and churches that distributed food for hungry people. And at each location, I would have a conversation with the folks that were there, and I would ask them, what are your hours of operation, right? Each place has different times and different days of operation. So if you're going to volunteer, there's plenty of opportunities because they're open pretty much all the time. How did you get started? I would ask them. And each organization, of course, has its own story to tell, and often its own story to tell it. Now, finally, the piece of resistance, right? The piece de resistance, the final question I was at, where do you get your food? Okay. And the answer always contained one element around here in Southeast Michigan that was always the same. Somewhere in the list of organizations and ways they arranged to get their food, the name Gleaners would pop up. So I became interested in Gleaners, and as I found out more about it, the more I realized how important a role it plays in our local community here in Southeast Michigan and what role food banks play across the United States. I can't emphasize the importance of supporting groups like Gleaners and the work that they do in any stronger fashion than to tell you this story. I was working at a soup kitchen. It was my second time at that particular location, and it was what was referred to there as a normal day. That is, the misery level was about the same as the week it had been the week before, but even so, everyone was in good spirits and cooperative. It was a normal day. Then in the afternoon, about 1 o'clock, this was after the lunch rush, something happened that overwhelmed me with the size of the problem of hunger and its ability to appear in the most unexpected places and occur to the most unlikely people. A church bus pulled up, and on that Sunday afternoon, in walks a man in the front with two small girls following behind. And they were each one of them was like between 8 to 11 years old, and there was other people with them also who were coming in. But these two struck me because to my untrained eye, they appeared to be starving. Right here in the United States of America, they appeared to be starving. So I was struck silent and motionless. I didn't expect to see this. One woman among the volunteers who was standing next to me began to shake her head in disbelief. With trembling hands, she did the only thing possible for her at that moment, which was she made 2 extra lunches and carried them out to the little girls to eat later in the day. I don't know what was going on there, but I saw it, and it's affected me ever since. Now let me give you a history of Gleaners. Gleaners was founded in 1977, and it's one of the oldest and largest food banks in the United States. Gleaners is also a founding member of Feeding America and the Food Bank Council of Michigan. Gleaners was founded by Jean Gagnon, who was born in the year 1940 and grew up on an Ohio farm. At the age of 19, he entered the Jesuit religious community and took for his own their motto of doing all for the greater good and glory of God, unquote. In 1977, Jean Gagnon left the Jesuit community and continued his mission of community service. In April of 1977, he co-founded Gleaners Community Food Bank. The first location was on the first floor of a warehouse in Detroit's near East Side. It's very close to the Capuchin Soup Kitchen. So that's Capuchin Soup Kitchen. You may want to look that up on the internet. It's very interesting what they do over there. Do a lot of great work. Now, this food bank was founded to solicit surplus food, Gleaners, store it safely, and distribute it to agencies that are the direct providers to the hungry of our community. So it's like a warehousing system. The food bank could accept donations such as truckloads of produce from Gene's family farm and bank it for a small or large organization serving the community, since none of those service agencies could accept large donations or store them over a large or a long period of time, or even a short period of time. In this way, Gleaners was among the first food banks in the United States. Several years after founding Gleaners, Gene and a few other food banks founded Second Harvest, a national network of food bank members, which is now called Feeding America. Gene and these organizations have received much acclaim, numerous community service awards, proclamations for their efforts. He was actually featured in August 1983 issue of Reader's Digest, as well as They Light Up Our Life, which is a book by Will Hardy about outstanding Detroit citizens. Crane's Detroit Business named Gleaners Community Food Bank the best managed not-for-profit in 1990. The mission of Gleaners Community Food Bank is to provide surplus, donated, and low-cost food and personal care products to people in southeastern Michigan who are in need. This is done by nourishing communities by feeding hungry people. Quote, nourishing communities by feeding hungry people, unquote. Since 1977, Gleaners Community Food Bank grew from distributing just 1 or 2 million pounds of food a year, gee, that's not much, huh, to more than 36 million pounds annually through a network of more than 500 partner soup kitchens, pantries, shelters, and other nonprofit organizations. To be clear, the primary mission of Gleaners is to feed hungry people. Gleaners has always been and remains committed to adopting best practices and cost-effective systems and procedures to achieve the highest possible return on its human and financial resources. Gleaners fulfills its role with a sense of compassion and urgency, recognizing that in many instances it is the only source of emergency food for persons in need. Gleaners relies on technology, modern processes, lots of volunteers, and food donations to operate as efficiently and cost-effectively as possible. In October 2010, the board and staff of Gleaners adopted a 3-year strategic plan to address the largest hunger crisis in the organization's history. The plan called for Gleaners to grow annual food distribution from 36 million to 50 million pounds in just a few years. The plan also involved growing outreach and education programs to help people rely less on emergency food. Programs like Cooking Matters, which teaches families how to budget, shop, and prepare meals that are economical and nutritious. The largest program that Gleaners pursues is food distribution. Last year, Gleaners distributed more than 38 million pounds of food to partner agencies all across Southeast Michigan. Education and outreach are also parts of the package. Programs such as Cooking Matters offers classes for low-income citizens to learn about budgeting and nutrition in order to be able to provide themselves and their loved ones with nutritious food on limited dollars available to them. Cooking Matters is a nutrition, education, and financial planning program operated locally by Gleaners. Cooking Matters is a direct outreach program that mobilizes culinary and nutrition professionals to teach cooking classes, focusing on nutrition and food budgeting to those who are at risk of hunger and malnutrition. Chefs and nutritionists volunteer their time to lead the classes, which run for 6 weeks and are held at nonprofit community centers. Cooking Matters is always looking for chefs, nutritionists, and financial planners to volunteer to work with the Cooking Matters coordinator to teach classes. Classes include Eating Right, which is for low-income adults, includes topics such as planning balanced, low-fat meals, shopping to maximize food dollar value, and developing good kitchen sanitation habits. Now, Kids Up Front for children ages 8 to 12 uses the food guide pyramid to teach kids about nutrition and healthy snacking and provides simple recipes that children can prepare themselves. The Power of Eating Right is designed for teens ages 13 to 18 and intended to address the nutritional needs of teens with emphasis on activities and needs based on philosophy of variety and moderation. Now, the Side by Side program is for parents and children and is designed to help families create meal times and learn how to cook healthy meals together. Saving Smart and Spending Smart builds on the food budgeting component of the nutrition curriculum, teaching low-income adults financial planning skills, including how to develop a savings plan, handle a paycheck, and shop effectively. Eating Well is a program developed for people living with HIV and AIDS and includes specialized recipes and information on the different nutritional needs of people living with HIV and AIDS. The reality is that hunger can be reduced by the deeds of children. That was the philosophy of Gleaners board members Catherine Michalak and Ruth Ellen and Mayhall, who together with staffers Peg Roberts and Jack Riffio developed the Kids Helping Kids Hunger Awareness Program way back in 1986 and presented the idea of involving school-age children in hunger relief to Detroit area schools. Today, Kids Helping Kids invite students to Gleaners for volunteering and education. Students visiting Gleaners begin with an introduction to the history of the food bank, a tour of the warehouse, and an education center session, followed by a hands-on experience. The educational focus is on the importance of good nutrition and hunger awareness. Over the years, Kids Helping Kids has introduced thousands of school-age children to community service, helping their fellow students. Drive Out Hunger is Gleaners Community Food Bank's new campaign to collect food to feed our hungry neighbors. Through the generosity of the Ford Motor Company and the Suburban Collection, Gleaners has Ford Transit Connect vans that are used for food pickups and drop-offs. The vans mean that they'll no longer need to send one of the full-size trucks and incur expense for gas and drivers, leaving more dollars for those in need. Many local businesses, schools, and groups have taken the Fill the Van Challenge and organized a food drive to collect enough food to fill one of the Transit Connect vans. If you're interested in collecting or sorting food, packing food boxes, staffing a special event, or helping out in the office or participating in any way, Gleaners offers many opportunities to volunteer. I just want to briefly go over some myth-busting statistics. And I've heard many stories about hunger from my friends and relatives and acquaintances. I've seen articles written in the newspapers and heard remarks on television and radio. I'm often shocked by how far off the mark of the reality of it is the clever reasoning that's offered. I could take all day to refute many of the half-truths that seem so logical but do not reflect reality. There's a negative set of images that are no more than a myth, which persists and make it difficult to address the real problem of hunger at the root. These fanciful notions about hunger and the myths surrounding them are withered and the reality etched on the faces of hungry children or in the spirits and lives of men and women struggling to eat as they courageously seek work to support themselves and their loved ones. The difference is often one of circumstances. Here are some myth-busting statistics. In the state of Michigan, 1 in 7 households receives emergency food from food banks. That's a great number of people. These numbers can and sometimes do include entire neighborhoods or towns who are rocked by the loss of changing fortunes of 1 or 2 local employers, and this is going on right now. 34% of households using emergency food programs include at least 1 employed adult. Even though a man or a woman is working hard, working full-time, that individual may not be able to provide the money necessary in our modern economy to pay for necessary medical care, clothing, housing, and a complete and balanced diet. 70% of households receiving emergency food no longer need it within 1 year. It's a little longer now because of our difficulties that we're experiencing, 1 year, year and a half. But they don't remain on it permanently. With the support provided by Gleaners, which can only be provided by the support that you do and you can provide, most of the people that require assistance with getting nutritious food no longer need the assistance because they've been able to improve their circumstances and they have enough food to eat so that they have the strength to make another go of it. That's what it's all about. I could go on with more statistics and numbers, but I'm secure in the knowledge that you will know the truth when you see it. Now, there's a gap. There's a food gap. And what is that? Gleaners provides a small but critical amount of food to the people who need it. Government programs like food stamps and the free lunch program for low-income students provide even more relief for people who are hungry. In spite of those efforts, it's estimated that people in poverty in the United States are still missing over 230 million meals a year. That's about 6 meals a week for each of these people on average. That's not good. The reality of it is a man or woman working 6 days a week skipping lunch. Not because they want to and because they're on a diet, because they can't afford it. The second half of the day would become a burden, as you can imagine. Perhaps the meal being missed in that family is a child not having breakfast. The first half of the day would be difficult for the child to settle in at school and participate. If we consider that this person might be out of work, might be sick, might not have a home, we've arrived at that point where the two little girls I mentioned earlier were at. And again, even though we don't see it, is it that uncommon? It's a stark reality that can only be relieved by the kind of action that you take through Gleaners and other organizations like it. Gleaners assists in filling this gap for about 31,000 children in southeastern Michigan each year. Programs that are used include Operation Frontline, Kid Snack, Backpack, and a Summer Kids Feeding Program. These programs provide meals to children in out-of-school programs, snacks to children in schools in high-need areas, and get young people involved in volunteer work and philanthropy. About 68% of the adults served by food pantries and soup kitchens in Michigan have a high school diploma. 38% of the people seeking emergency food are children. 38% of the people seeking emergency food are children. More than 1 million Michiganders and more than 11 million Americans in general have very low food security. That's 1 million Michiganders. And 11 million Americans in general have very low food security. That's family members must cut back or skip meals and go hungry frequently. In total, it's estimated that 50.2 million Americans live without enough food to meet basic needs at all times due to lack of financial resources. 50.2 million Americans live without enough food to meet basic needs at all times due to lack of financial resources. That's the gap. This is the gap. And this is the gap that Gleaners, in partnership with you and others, is working to fill. Looking into the future, we have that Gleaners has 4 strategies to try and close this food gap. The first is to procure and distribute more free food. This is done through neighborhood food drives, community gardens, farms, mobile pantries, designed to get more food out to more people and reach communities that lack emergency food providers. The second is to raise money to buy more food. Food purchase for these programs usually includes meat and other proteins. These help fill the nutritional gap and provides more variety for Gleaners partners to distribute. The third strategy is to leverage government programs for those eligible to get them. This includes increasing food stamp participation and increasing participation in the United States Department of Agriculture summer lunch programs for kids. The things are there, the things are set aside, but we need to put the people that need them in contact with those services. Lastly, the fourth strategy that Gleaners uses is through education and outreach, and this allows people to effectively do more with less. This strategy also spreads the word about Gleaners and the need to address hunger here in southeastern Michigan and elsewhere. I want to thank you for listening to me speak about Gleaners, its mission, programs, and strategies, and I hope that you will participate with Gleaners because there's a lot to do. It's through your help and support that our neighbors here in Southeast Michigan can be relieved of the hunger during their transition from job to job or their climb out of poverty. In conclusion, it's you who are the shield against want and hunger in our communities. Thank you very much for your time and attention.